All right, welcome back. That is what we're starting with this morning on Sunrise today. And you can see Mr. Sheyi Adetayo joins us, the former state security operative. He joins us from Maryland. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, at the moment, hope you can hear me.
Yeah, good morning, Chamberlain.
Okay, good morning. So back home here, this currency scarcity is hitting everyone hard. I'm not sure you can feel the pinch from where you are, but you have also been cautious a little bit about this previously. So, and we also know that this definitely can have security implications. So, when you see all of these narratives as they build up across the country, and I know security agencies always look to this kind of issues to ensure that things don't get out of hand. So, what are your thoughts at the first instance on what the trajectory and how this seems to be playing out now?
Okay, yeah, good morning, Chamberlain. I've seen this. I saw this coming, and I remember having conversations with my colleagues that we're going to find ourselves in situations where if care is not taken, and I want to repeat, if care is not taken, the election might not hold. And it's very, very important that we actually pay attention to what is going on in the communities as we speak. People are angry. People don't have money to actually go to work. It's not that they don't have money in their account, they don't have the raw cash. This is a heavily cash dependent economy. And when you want to make such transition in a population of almost about 200 million people, it means that you are talking about money spreading into the hands of at least 100 million, adults and young adults that will need cash. So, and you can't do that in 45 days, because that is a situation that we found ourselves where we have to move money around within 45 days in a heavily cash dependent economy. I was saying how this is already impacting the communities. My fear is this: the pockets of crisis that we're seeing, that it doesn't degenerate in a couple of days if we don't address these issues. And let me give you an example. You've been driving in the city of Lagos. Have you taken notice of the reduction in the numbers of hawkers in traffic in Lagos? Those who sell inside traffic, they've really gone down, because people, not that they don't have the commodity to sell, they don't have people with cash to buy from them. And you can't do POS transaction inside traffic. Now, the downside of this is that, where are those guys? What will those guys be doing in the next 1 week? They don't have a job to do. They don't have means of earning income. What will they do? The suppliers, the manufacturers of the West, especially, let me give an example. Those who are selling plantain chips in the traffic, they are being produced by small factories around the communities. There are people working there. If they don't sell the ones they have, it means they're not going to produce, which means there's no more work for those guys that are working in those small industries that are producing things like chips and the rest. Then the materials that those people bought, like the plantain, they use to produce those plantain chips, are going to be there. They're going to get rotten because there's no longer sales for what they're going to produce. So this is already producing chunks of people that are becoming unemployed. And that is just one example. Now, if you look around the whole society, that is exactly what is happening right now. Production rate is actually going down. People are not being able to exchange, have source of income. Those who want to go to work that depends on daily income could not go to work because they don't have the cash to pay conductor, who will not collect the whole cash from them, and they are stuck at home. There are parents who cannot send their children to school right now because there is no money for them to buy food when they get to school. So it's a major issue that we're seeing that may spiral into something that we do not. We can see the way people are expressing their anger, and from my own understanding, as someone who has been in intelligence for so many years, part of what we do in intelligence is to get the pulse of the people. You try to feel the pulse of the people. You talk to the people in the community. Try to get public opinion. You sample the opinion. You'll be able to weigh and predict what could likely happen. I saw this about 3-4 weeks ago, and I've said this is going to happen. And we're seeing it happening now. So The impact of this on security is going to be monumental. Now, why do we have this policy? The reason, proposed for this policy has already been defeated. Number one, about it curbing terrorism. I see no way this is going to curb terrorism. We've seen videos now and even pictures of bandits, waving words of new notes and claiming they have them in millions already, which means that they have their ways of sourcing for this money. And it is true because in areas where they operate, they control everything around those areas. If they want money in the bank, they know they threaten the bank, the bankers will provide the money. If it is to control election, it is already defeated. Because number one, those who need money for election, they found a way of getting this money readily. Secondly, the CBN Act made it mandatory, and it is there. And CBN governor could not dispute the fact that you cannot, even though you make the money not to become a legal tender after a specific date, you cannot stop the money from being allowed into the banks. Which means that if your concern is that you don't want people to be given money on election days, but with the constitution right now, the law right now, and the CBN governor's confession, politicians can still spend the old notes on election day. Maybe instead of giving 10,000, they will give people 50,000 this time around, because people can now take this money after election, take it to the bank and deposit the money, and the bank cannot stop them because that is what the constitution says. So it is already defeated as it is now. And then if that is the case, then why are we suffering? Why are we allowing situation? I fear that in the next couple of days, we might begin to see situations where traffic robberies will go on high rates in cities, because those people that could not walk right now, those Ushins, those hawkers that could not walk, may end up looking for ways of feeding themselves. And we may see upsurge in crime rates in Nigeria.
It's a very grim picture that you've painted, Sadetayo, and it's a good thing you say that security agencies usually make this sort of projections. How aware are you of whether or not when the CBN was going to implement this, is it usual or normal for security agencies to be carried along in terms of looking at, what the implication could be on the larger society?
So security agencies are not policymakers, but they advise policymakers. So when policymakers make their policies, it is a responsibility of security, especially intelligence agencies, to help them to do what they call public perception. They will take the policy and try to get the feelings in the community, how people are receiving, and they advise the government to say, the policy you've just made, this is how people are taking it. You need to do 1, 2, 3, or 4 things to ensure that your policy succeed. And at times might be try to advise them to tweak the policy, or to even change the policy entirely, either to drop it or people accept your policy. And I can assure you that this time on these particular situations, they had given lots of intelligence to government to say this will create problem. I have never seen it in anywhere in the world, including cashless society, where transition from old currency to new currencies are done in 45 days. The reason why we're having this push is because the initial deadline was 45 days. Between December 15, when the new currency was introduced, and January 31st. That put pressure in the society, expecting about 100 million people. And what we're seeing right now also shows that the production capacity and the quantity of the new Naira note is not enough. And that's the reason why we're having this. You don't transit a heavily dependent, cash-dependent economy into a cashless economy overnight, 45 days. You see, we have no other country. This is the only country we have. And we must be very, very careful what we do and how we push ourselves, to the brink. And that is what we're having right now. The pressure is so much. Even those outside the country, they are complaining. I don't have any new Naira notes. I don't have any. I'll be back into the country. I don't even know how I'm going to survive because even those that are left at home, they don't even have the new Naira notes. And many of them cannot even afford to go and queue endlessly at the bank. Let me give you an instance. I was speaking to a friend within the diplomatic community, and he said that a bank brought the new Naira note into their ATM machine, and within 10 minutes, after 25 people collected 20,000 because they tried to monitor it, and the whole money finished. So when they multiplied, they discovered that the bank only put 500,000 naira into the machine. This is one of the major diplomatic, establishments, embassies in Nigeria. And you know what's happening? He said the diplomats were meeting those who collected 20,000 naira to say, please, give me 1,000 naira. Let me transfer 1,000 naira to you. So they will go, this one will go and meet one person and collect 1,000, another. So you can imagine that this is not about the rural people being affected. The cities are affected. The diplomatic community are affected. Even though initially they were thinking that, oh, maybe it will going to help us to finally have a corruption-free election. It's no longer about the election, it's about survival. They themselves are not seeing it in that way anymore. They are feeling the hardship, they are sad, they are unhappy.
Well,
and that is the situation right now.
You know, you painted several scenarios. So if they all have intelligence, they know what the consequences will be or can be, how it may spiral out of control if it continues in this trajectory, because how do you tell people who go to the banks that they can't access their own money? You're not talking about millions of naira here. Even just few thousands of naira, they can't get access to that. So it will be frustrating for anybody. And several people out there who are already frustrated with the situation in the country. So add this to it, so you can imagine how that will play out. But there are also several conspiracy theories out there where people think, look, even though today we hear INEC say no matter what happens, the elections should not be postponed. What kind of implications do you think? Because there are those who think some of these measures might just have been orchestrated to ensure frustrations on the part of Nigerians so that they take it out on election day or on the party or something to thwart or tilt something in one way or the other. Are these possibilities just what, a wild goose chase or just figments of people's imagination? Do you see any iota of, any iota of possible reality in all of these narratives?
You see, like my focus is on the security implication. And I can also pick some words from what I've seen politicians say. From the dailies today, we saw the comment from the presidential candidate of NNPP saying that the politicians already have this money, which means that whatever we want to achieve in terms of the sanctity of our elections has already been defeated already. So which means that even if they need money to share, they may not have as much as they will have intended to, but it definitely is not going to stop. So that has already been defeated. Now back to the election proper. INEC fixes dates, or fixed dates, but INEC cannot determine whether election will hold or not. It is the society that will determine whether it is ready to go into ballot or not. And coming days will determine whether Nigerians will actually be in the mood to go into elections or not when people cannot feed. No, we are looking at the realities of the society. And my fear is this. The circumstances around NSAS are entirely different from what we're having right now. And this time around, both the North and the South are affected. Both the rich and the poor are affected. Both the educated and the illiterate are affected. It's not just about young people that are afraid of police harassing them. It's about people not being able to feed their family, not be able to buy things, can't go to work. No, that is the issue that we are seeing right now. And it is important that we look at this issue carefully and make, first of all, secure the society. That is when we can go into election. It's not about Boko Haram, fighting in some parts of the country. It's not about bandits holding. It's about the entire populace not being able to live their life. So it's not.
Well, Mr. Adito, I think we'd like to believe that the security agencies themselves will know if protests across the country about this are sponsored or is it organic. So who knows what their conclusion or their findings will be about this one. But let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos. They've got questions for you as well.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Mr. Aditayo, just to be clear, perhaps you may want to make this as explicit and as advisory as possible. We're already seeing, of course, I'm sure you have seen videos of people fighting inside banks, some people behaving in ways they wouldn't normally have behaved. Queues on the roads in front of banks, of ATMs, struggles, quarrels are already happening. And in pockets of places all over the place, all over Nigeria, scarcity of fuel persists. We have had stories where some pump stations say, if you do not have brand new notes, we will not sell for you, our POS is not working and stuff like that. This is a build-up and it is scary. You say that it is completely different from the NSAR situation that brought what it brought, but what are the implications of this? If a lockdown could generate what it generated in 2020, such that there was such a massive hue and cry all over the place, isn't this a little riskier? That, as you said, is affecting everybody across board. What are the implications of this, especially on our social security, as we build up to an election?
Yeah, so I think we're saying the same thing. You know, what I was saying is the scenario for NSAS was different, not even as much as what we see today. During NSAS, people had opportunity to stop. People still have opportunity to buy. Some people didn't have opportunity to go to work, to earn more, but it didn't affect all. This time around, both the rich and the poor are affected. And that is the most scary part of what we have right now. And if we allow this to snowball into crisis, we may not have the strength to curtail it. You know, for the first time in the life of this nation, we're having parallel market for Naira now, not just about dollar or foreign currency. Naira is now being sold at different rates, just for you to find out who is selling it cheaper and who is selling it higher in the same country. So scarcity brings about tension, brings about crisis, and that is what we have in our hands. Talking about people taking advantage, that will happen in any society. You always have 50 columnists, whether it's in the US or it is in Egypt or anywhere. There will be people who will definitely want to take advantage. You know, it will definitely help. The projected crisis to even happen faster than expected because they have their own objective, and they may not necessarily be politicians, but they just have interest in using the opportunity to create crisis, you know, push for their own agenda and try to see how they can install themselves into reckoning when crisis is on. We mustn't give these people opportunity to take advantage of this. The earlier government addressed, and the solution to this is just very simple: remove the deadline.
Speaking of which, Mr. Aditayo, sorry, good morning, Mr. Aditayo. Speaking of which, you were talking about fifth columnists and agendas. I wonder if you're following the conversation from about a week before now. You know, one of the candidates was complaining, saying that, you know, the fuel scarcity, the Naira redesign was targeted at him. The other candidate was a bit more temperate and initially called for the extension, but has now said, no, do not extend beyond the February 10 deadline. Do you see any undertones, you know, amid the Naira redesign policy? Because not one, there's a groundswell of opinion that this is coming at a wrong time.
You see, politicians will behave like politicians to play their politics. Politicians have reasons why they say the things that they say. I'm here to talk about the reality on ground, and this is affecting the entire society. It's not about politicians right now. It's about everybody. Politicians are feeling it. Everybody, they are feeling it. The politicians too cannot even walk freely in the community as we speak right now. They are also finding it difficult to campaign to the people. Be it ruling, whether you are a ruling party, you are an opposition party, or whatever, you are finding it difficult. Because even if you are contesting ordinarily, the people in your community will bring all their problems to you. Whether you are in power or you are a fresh candidate, they want you to help solve their school, children's school fees issue, medical issues, take advantage of you. And that's why politicians spend so much. Now, imagine a situation where the people cannot even hit. So the politicians are having monumental issues on them right now because all those people are now rushing to the politician for survival. So nobody's actually feeling it right.
It's actually a scenario that really needs to be addressed as soon as possible. But we do thank you for your time. Very early hours where you are. Thank you very much indeed, Sheyi Adetayo, former state security operative.